Hello, welcome back. It's Rob from Ascendant Loft. This one's a video requested by one of the subscribers, Mark Neal, I believe he's called. He's asking, how do we sex birds? How do we determine the sex of them? Behaviours to look for, stuff like that. This, before I go ahead and do the video, is my major weak point. So I've done a lot of research. And I have put me stock birds together in a way that I know them immediately. So we'll get to it. We'll start looking at how to determine the sex of a bird and the different things we need to look for. So the first thing which I tend to look for when we determine the sex of a bird is its behaviour. So what you want to be looking for, as you can see, there's a few birds chasing other birds around and sort of pecking them. This is called driving. Now the cock bird, the male bird, when he knows his hen is due to lay or he's trying to court her, he will sort of follow her everywhere in the loft. He won't let her eat, let her drink, he won't let her do anything. He's got one sole purpose, and that is to push her back into her nest bowl to lay eggs. The cock will follow behind with a taller posture. He'll stand up tall. The hen will undoubtedly be running away from him every time. Other things, cocks brushing their tails on the floor. If I do find one, I'll put it on. You'll know when it's doing it. It's really intimidating. It'll basically sort of slow down as it's walking and then shoot forward with its tail dragging on the floor opened up. Same again, that's it, courting the hen bird. The neck on a cock bird, as you can see with that one stood at the end there, his neck's quite sort of fat, large, it's got a lot of girth. Whereas a hen bird, such as her down there, her neck's quite sort of long and skinny. The male will puff his air sac out, so he'll sort of suck a lot of air in. It'll just look really sort of fat. That's another way they're caught. The general behaviour of a cock bird is a lot more verbal. They make a lot more noise and they behave a lot more. I think most of it's more determining that a bird isn't a cock than it is a cock. Another thing they do, a cock bird will sort of stroll around in a figure of 8 pattern. As you can see him cooing on the top there, turning in circles. He's doing this to try and court the hen underneath him. Now hens will do this sometimes, but it's generally only when they're in a nest bowl or a nest box, even protecting a nest bowl. As you can see him there, strolling around. A hen very rarely will actually do a full circle or figure of 8. As you can see him, he's really going for it, and you can see his neck there puffed up quite a lot. It's usually quite difficult to tell when they haven't been split. You can make them exhibit this behaviour a lot better if you separate them for a few days first and then put what you believe are the cocks and hens back together. Obviously you need to know other ways of telling the cocks and hens before you can tell the behaviour. So we'll go into that now. So next thing we're going to look at is the forehead of the bird. So if I can get a hold of him. So right here, this bit here is called the crown of the head. On a hen bird it's quite flat, quite small. Now a cock bird, it will look, it'll almost have a corner on the front of it. Just a lot bigger in general. The space from the eye to the edge of the forehead will be a lot larger. Also looking eye to eye, the head may be a lot wider on a cock bird. Some people say, you know, the cock bird may have a flat head on the top at the back here, and a hen may have a round head. Same again, there's no one way that is 100%. It's more putting all these ways together to determine the sex. The cockbird in general will feel a lot heavier, a lot larger, but same again, not 100% because you do get large hen birds. Like I say, this is my major weak point. Another point, what quite a lot of people do is these two outer toes here on either foot. Now I don't know exactly how this works, so calm down mate. I don't know exactly how this works, but they say that if these two toenails are the same length, it's a hen. If this outer one, I believe it is longer than the inner one on both feet, they say it's the opposite sex. Now, I've never really used this before. Reason behind it is because if the nails get too long, I clip them myself, so they're more comfortable, so the toes don't turn to the side. Another way we have it is if you rub the bottom of the bird, if you just hold it like I am and hold it into your body, if I can actually get it there, it shouldn't actually struggle much. So what you want to do is you'll feel a bone in the middle, sort of, it's called the keel bone. It's sort of like a spine but along the bottom of the bird. If you can imagine a boat, underneath has that one bit of wood going all the way through it. If you rub slowly to the back, you'll get to sort of a hole and two bones right up the back end here. This is called the vent bones. Now on a cockbird, these will tend to be very, very close together. On a hen bird, they will be wider for the reason of passing eggs. However, if a hen hasn't laid any eggs before, then it's not being opened up, so it's going to feel quite close again. And hopefully you've had the sexing done before it gets to this point. Like I say, you just rub back very, very gently, and you can feel them there. This one here being a cockbird, they are quite close together. But same again, I've got cockbirds where you can sort of fit your finger in between. That was the general rule of thumb I looked for. If you can fit your finger in between, then it's a hen, so as to pass an egg. Otherwise it would be a cock. Another way, if you look at the pigeon's eye, the eyeball itself, forget what's around the outside of it, the outskirts of the eyeball itself where the eyelids meet. Now if this is more human shaped, so it sort of tapers off into two corners either side, they say it's a hen. Whereas if it's more rounded, without the tapered corners, it's more of a cockbird. I don't know if you can see it here, this one does have slight tapers on the sort of towards the back of the head, and they're not that bad really, but the front, obviously it's quite pointed. Like I say, I just know this is a cockbird. Another way I was taught, you hold the bird normal, cup your hand. Now the bird's going to get away this time around, so we'll move on to the hens once I'm done, which is why I've left this last. So cup your hand, put its head off to the side and just roll the bird back on its head. Now they say if it flips back off and flies away, then it's a cock. However, if it just lays there, it's a hen. Now same again, I've sexed birds this way and I've been proven wrong anyway by it. I don't think any bird would want its neck bent back the way, but I do have a few hen birds which you don't even need to use the head, you just sort of lie it like that and it's absolutely fine. So we'll go ahead and do that. So cup the hand, roll its head over, and as soon as I let go, flew away. A hen bird won't do that. So what I'll do now, I'll go and grab a hen and we'll go through the same things with a hen bird, and then I'll go through with two birds together. I'll try and make it two more obvious birds so you can clearly see the difference, but like I say, it took me over a year to sex these correctly, and ultimately the 100% way. If it lays eggs, it's a hen. If it is the other bird in the nest, then it's a cock. So I'll go and get the other birds anyway. So here we have a hen bird. Now you can see, I can see anyway, I don't know if you can on camera, the bird itself is a lot smaller. Now this is purposely done by me for easy sexing of the birds. When I did finally get through to determining the sex, I tried to make sure all my hens were small, all my cocks were large, and that way anything bred by them is hopefully in the middle and it's easy for management for me. So the behaviour of a hen is quite boring, to be fair. She'll just sit around, they generally won't fight. Two cocks in one nest box, which I will demonstrate in a second. They're just going to fight like hell to determine territory. A hen will only do that if she's got eggs or got babies in there. So as you can see, the forehead on here, it's really, on this front edge, it's really quite flat and quite close to her eyes. The head itself's a lot smaller. Now she's tucking her neck in there, but usually when you'll see her walking around, her neck will be quite tall, and you can sort of see she's putting it out, but there's not really much girth around here. Not much of an air sac here, though they do have them, they just don't inflate them as large. Back to the toe trick, and I can't tell the difference, but wait, not much anyway. This toe here is slightly larger than, or the toenail is slightly larger than that other one. I wouldn't say it's 100%. With this bird, I'd say the determinant factor was just the way she behaves, the size of her, and the vent bones. That vent bone there, the space between the two bones is close together. However, the hollow gap, it just sort of feels like a newborn baby when you touch the head. It's really quite soft. You could almost fit a golf ball through there, which tells me she's laid eggs, and I know she has anyway, because these are all the proven bred pairs that I've had. To handle, she's really quite boring, quite just happy sitting around. She's got a little bit of fight to her, and she's just generally a smaller bird all in. Now the other way, which I forgot to mention with the cockbird, was that. Now there's a video on YouTube and he does it. Now I don't know if it's the nail I've got, if it doesn't work properly or what. Basically you hold the nail towards the pigeon's head and they say it's going to move left to right if it's a cock, which I promise you I'm not swinging that, and actually that's a better result than what I got when I tried to do it myself. As you can see, side to side on the bird, it's going left to right or right to left, whichever way, it doesn't matter. And I turn the bird around and I'm trying to hold it as still as possible. It turns and goes side to side itself. Now I will do another video actually on this, because I would like to, now that I can see it actually working, I'd like to put the nail up on a piece of wood and not touch it at all, so you can see I'm not swinging it. On a cock bird it will go front to back on the bird. On a hen, left to right. All this is just an old piece of string with a nail on it. I'm assuming it's a nail that has to be magnetic, but I'm not very good with metals, so I just got a nail. Another piece of case, just like I say, you've got to put all these factors together to determine the sex of the bird. You can get them feather tested, where you send the feathers away to a laboratory and they'll tell you 100% it's male or female. So back to the roll trick again, which same again, I'll leave that till last, because the hen will fly away. So roll the bird back, there we go, she's just sitting there. Like I say, it's not 100% and I'm not doing anything different. I mean, I could leave her there like that, head not even out. The cockbird straight away will try and get away, but she's just happy sitting there, aren't you, darling? get stroked. Like I say, no one of these ways has been 100% for me, but altogether I have successfully managed to determine the sex of the birds, and that is the only reason, because I've put all of these methods together. So we'll have a look at the behaviours, and I'll throw a cockbird into another nest box with another cockbird, and we'll show you how they go on, and then we'll do the same with a hen. So as you can see here, cockbird scraping around the nest ball, really showing off to her. Also the cockbird next to them, you can see he's got a higher posture, he's trying to stand taller, more dominant. Apparently his hen doesn't like him, she's the boss with that one. Showing off that air sac, getting really full, and being around them, that does quite regularly. It puts them off. Well, not so much puts them off, it distracts them. Obviously would like them to be rested when they're doing this and not know you're there. But you can see them strutting their stuff and just generally trying to show off to the hen. So what we'll do now, we'll get a couple of cockbirds, chuck them in the same nest box, and just watch how they react, because I don't have any eggs in there at the minute, and this isn't recommended because they will fight. So I've got another cockbird here. This one on the right is a hen, but I don't want to get rid of her because the cockbird might fly out. I don't know if they're going to prove us wrong here. In fact, I'll open this one as well, because this cock here is quite dominant, and we'll go ahead and throw him into one of them. Now we'll just see how they get on. Just give it a couple of seconds, see if they fight. So there he's starting to strut, tell this other cock, and as you can see him, he's starting to mount an attack now on this other cockbird. It's his nest box and his mate, he doesn't want them in there. Obviously me being here is quite distracting for them. Maybe try and get rid of that. See how they go now. There. So he's pushed the other one out. The more dominant cock will try and push the other out of the box altogether. If it's open like this, they'll just try and sort of push them over this edge here. Two hens won't fight at all, and it's more difficult to try and set it up than it is to catch them doing it regularly on their own. And I believe we've got a couple over here playing up. What I'll do, I'll just get out of this section and I'll try and sort of look through the bars and see if I'm causing any distraction which is stopping any of them exhibiting the behaviour that they would. Also, another thing you'll find is if you get two in one nest, chances are one's the cock and one's the hen. When I know I've successfully sexed a set of birds, I'll put a white ring on one leg on the hen. It doesn't matter which leg, it doesn't matter whether you do it to the cocks or the hens. As long as you do it on one sex rather than both, you can, once you've sexed them once and you know it's 100%, you can pull them out straight away without having to look for them, which is why I can do it so quick here. As we can see here, just about to mate, so what will happen is the cockbird will open its mouth and he'll attempt to feed the hen. She's presenting to him already, they're a mated pair already, so he'll jump on, balance, and generally every other cockbird will go for the cock. Every other hen will go for the hen to stop it happening, because they all want to be the more dominant bird. They can fight for a few days in the nest box when you lock them together. Mine, I mean, they'll scalp, which is where they take sort of hair from the top of the head. This year I didn't have any problems like that, they just went together. So as you can see, they're about to feed each other. Because they're a mated pair, there's not much sort of foreplay in it, and straight away the other hen running over, stopping it, policing it. If they do get a successful mate, they will always sort of strut their stuff in the loft and go and celebrate, flapping the wings. They secrete a wax under the sort of armpits, and they'll always sort of brush their faces with that and start waterproofing themselves. And normally if they're in the box, they'll go straight back to the nest. But you know, when you've got a good couple of mated pairs, when they all start sitting in their own boxes on their perches, this pruning, what's happening in the middle here, quite often the cockbird will prune the hen and just give her a tickle, really. Just treating her nice, I suppose, the equivalent of you giving your girlfriend a massage. But that's when, you know, I mean, pigeons will mate for life as well, unless you separate them. They'll stay together. Yes, cocks will tread other hens, but all the eggs will get brought up with any successful pairs. As you can see, that cockbird there has defined his territory on the floor, so he's chasing the other one out of the way. So thank you for watching anyway. Like I say, this video was a viewer recommendation, something that one of my viewers asked for, one of my subscribers. Feel free to leave in the comments any questions, any other videos or subjects you'd like to see, and I'll do my very best to facilitate that, even if it means it's something I've got to look into myself, because I'll maybe sketchy on it, such as the section of the birds today. It's not my strong point, but I'll do everything I can to make a good, informative video on that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The support's really appreciated, and it just gives us a lot of motivation to carry on. And we'll see you next time with whatever we want to see. Thank you.